No, Penelope. You cannot do this to me, he loudly screamed, full of pain and anguish. Penelope softly cast him a mournful glance. Her eyes dreamily drifted off towards the merciless and cold winter sky. But I have to, she silently whispered, full of remorse. Her tender breath tenderly caressed his haggard cheekbones, mockingly. My heart beats with yearning when I see her sweet and lovely face. For you, oh my former beloved, my feelings resemble the deepest depths of the deep sea of dreams, but alas, I am still young. I want my heart aflame, burning brightly like the fires of Zarek. She, oh my former beloved, is the spark that shall kindle my desires. A bitter tear bitterly flowed down Bartekius's face, as if slyly commenting on his endless, horrible suffering. The wind howled mourningly in the distance. A storm would come. If that is your wish, oh beloved, Bartekius vigorously ejaculated, full of loving acceptance. Then I shall accept it, for I know that true love knows no malice, no jealousy. True love knows love, and love only. Ceremonially, he boldly knelt down in front of her and took her soft and tender hand into his equally soft and tender hands. Zestfully he said, I shall wait for you. I shall wait for you. Go, oh love.
Axes, daggers, swords, pleasure, everything for the weary traveler. Come again. I'm getting new wares by the next moon's turn.
Pleasure doing business with you. Come again. I'm getting new wares by the next moon's turn.
Let's see. What do we need?
Hey, you're an adventurer, aren't you? Come take a look. I'm sure I've got something that might spark your interest.
Sure.
Got it.
He rattled the dwarf full of gold, saved by the crowd who was told not to trust dwarves, and behold, shady pirates boarding for some sunken mold.
Someone should either pay him to leave or show him we don't want him here.
That
wasn't a particularly good poem.
Rats with their hairy, they gnaw, dangling dead, but maybe we fend them off next.
Will do. Got it. Let's see.
Unbelievable. All this.
Must be quite a change of scenery.
Yes, you could say that. All my life I dreamed of stepping through the portal, and now I did. And it's beautiful. Everything is so vast. Oh well. It will take some getting used to, that's for certain. There's something else I wanted to discuss with you. I brought some things from the island that could come in handy on your travels. Weapons, trinkets, all sorts of things I found in the Hibernian ruins over the years. Most of them haven't been used for millennia, but for a little gold I could get them back into shape. Just let me know if you want to take a look.
I will. Thank you.
Everything for the wary traveler. Farewell.
Tandai Tahar. Come to trade?
Come again. May Tiara bless your path.
Let's see.
Yes, yes?
Let me take a look at your designs.
Of course. Take all the time you need.
Pleasure doing business with you. Come again. I'm getting new wares by the next moon's turn.
Yes, Corporal? How can I help?
Well, there's something I've been meaning to ask you. How did you become an assassin?
Why do you want to know?
Because I want to know my allies.
I see. In short, my mother sold me. And after an incident, my owner noticed my talents. He started to train me to carry out jobs for him. And when I was 17, he had an accident. I've been an independent assassin ever since.
Your mother sold you? But where? Why?
Because she needed the coin, and already had 4 children to feed. And as for your first question, where there is demand, there is a market. Particularly in a big city like Greyfell. It's not as uncommon as you might believe.
You're saying there's a slave market in Greyfell?
Slaves, sex, murdering for pleasure. Just imagine every dark desire you can think of. And you know what the Greyfell Bazaar has to offer. I find it interesting that this surprises you. Didn't you serve in the Royal Army for 8 years?
I only joined shortly before the Mage Wars started, and the Greyfell affairs were the responsibility of the Greyfell Guard. I just didn't know.
Well, now you do. I do not agree with the purity of light in most aspects. But they are right when they say there are many sinners in this world. If you believe in the concept of sin, that is.
Even if she needed the money, that's despicable.
Well, to her credit, she didn't take it lightly. At least as far as I can remember. I was only 7 when that happened.
That doesn't make it better. How do you feel about this? Your mother selling you off?
Well, I used to feel strongly about it. Now I've simply accepted it as part of my past. But there are plenty of reasons for that.
That's quite the story.
Is it?
So, who is this man who bought you?
I won't talk about that. This chapter of my past is done, and I want it to stay buried.
That sounds like you're hiding something.
I am. But it should be of no relevance to you. So, tell me, Pariah, how did you become the betrayer's child in the first place? It's rare for a child to defy their own father.
He lost his vision. When he started the rebellion, it was about the safety of mages, but he became more and more radical. I just couldn't stand by and watch anymore.
That's admirable. Well, thank you for sharing this with me. Either way, is there anything else you need?
Goodbye. Interesting.
Huh?
I'm still wondering what made you leave Kalea and travel the world to study demonology.
You're not letting this one go, are you? Alright, if your life depends on it, I'll tell you. To make it short, I grew up in the slums of Kalea. A shithole if ever there was one. Just imagine an entire quarter made up of half-ruined shacks with the smell of shit and piss everywhere. And way too many people. Then add the tropical heat to it and you've got the place I grew up in. My father had left right after I was born. My mother is what you call a day laborer. Though the days when she wasn't laboring outweighed the ones when she did. Whatever job there was, she took it. Even if it was cleaning the shit out of Kalaean canals. She worked hard, but it just wasn't enough. We lived in a windowless room and I shared a bed with my mother for the first 14 years of my life. Long story short, after a while my mother simply couldn't cover the expenses anymore. The rent for our room went up and jobs became less and less, since the Mage Wars in Northander also affected the trade in Kalea. So my mother looked for someone to help her out, and found one. A man named Creo. He was a loan shark who had it all. A stupid name and a shady beard. 2 lackeys who followed him wherever he went. And above all, a complete lack of what other people will call decency.
I think I can see where this is going.
Sure you can. It's not the most unique of stories, is it? To cut to the chase, 1 year later we were in massive debt. Creo suggested my mother another way of making up for it. You can fill in the blanks. I was just too weak. Over and over, this fucking bastard came. Had my mother tell me to go for a walk. And every time I had no choice but to obey. Do you have any idea how it feels, Tahar? To be that powerless? I remember one day I looked in the mirror and realized how much I hated the boy I saw. I hated his body with all its frail bones, his small arms, his bloodshot wet eyes. And that's when I decided to change things. So the next time he came, I fought back.
How did that go?
What do you think? He beat me up. It was the same next time and the time after that. At first he found it funny. But after the fourth time he threatened to kill me. The only thing that stopped him from doing it is because my mother begged him to. And I had only made it worse. On my 14th name day I left home and joined up with the Chilean sand prowlers. My mother begged me not to go. But I just couldn't. Standing there and watching this fucking bastard walk into our room again and again whenever he felt like it, I just couldn't. Dying would have been better than staying. The way I figured it was that if I earned enough money to pay Mother's debts, Kriya would leave her alone. Once I was strong enough, I'd come back. Wait for him to show up again. And then, well, you can imagine the rest.
I think I can. So who were these sand prowlers?
A group of mercenaries. They took me in and trained me. And even though they were skeptical at first, they quickly realized that my determination made up for what my body was lacking. When I was 16 and I discovered my magic, one of their leaders made me his apprentice. The arcane universities are a shithole made up of boy-loving old geezers who care more about how you wear your hair than about your magic. I'll tell you the real thing. And that she did.
What about your plan to pay your mother's debts? Did that work out?
Well, I thought so at first, but we'll get there.
What was it like to work with the sand prowlers?
Well, if you were hoping for stories of sex, adventure, and intrigue, I have to disappoint you. Most of it was nasty stuff. Fighting in wars which you knew were wrong, beating up people who were practically helpless. But then again, the Chilean Guard was no better than that. It was a case of pick your poison.
Was that sand prowler mage also who introduced you to demonology?
What? No, she was a mediocre mage at best. The most powerful thing she could do was lighting someone's hair on fire. Though of course she didn't see it that way. After 1 year I was already stronger than her, and I started my own studies.
So did you ever return to your mother?
Of course, on my 18th name day. I had wanted to return earlier, but a contract had me kept overseas for a lot longer than I had expected. Sorry. It's strange to talk about it.
What happened?
My mother. She was gone. Her room had been cleared out, and the neighbors told me she passed away unexpectedly just 3 weeks before I arrived. Her heart just stopped beating.
I'm sorry.
Why? It was a natural death. She was old when she gave birth to me, and the life on the Chilean streets isn't forgiving. In other words, it was bound to happen. I went into the room and looked for our stash. A small casket under the floorboards. I found it, opened it, and saw all the money I'd sent her over the years.
So...
She never used it to pay Creo as I instructed her. I have no idea why, but my best guess is that she thought it was mine since I earned it. She was that kind of person, you know? No matter how hard fate punched her in the face, she'd cling on to her ideals. Always did what was right rather than what was good for herself. And look what she got in return.
Did you ever visit her grave?
I did, but it was a mass grave. Dozens of corpses, all piled onto each other, and some earth shoveled on top of it. I threw up when I saw it, and never came back after that.
What about Creo?
Well, as you can imagine, I went to look for him. Right after I was able to think straight again. but he was gone.
Where?
I don't know. I asked everywhere and everyone who could know, and they either didn't or gave me different information. After a while, I gave up.
Why?
Because people like Creo are just a reality we have to deal with. I could have killed him, but what good would it have done? My mother was dead, and no amount of bloodshed and gut tearing could have changed that. The world doesn't give a fuck about your ideals, Tahar. About doing the right thing. That's just the shit we tell ourselves to help us sleep at night. You eat or you get eaten. It's that simple. I wasn't strong enough when I should have been. And that's why I couldn't help her. That will never happen again.
I guess you're right.
I am. To wrap up the story, I enrolled at the university from the money my mother saved for me. Turned out the Sand Prowler mage was wrong. There were some boy-loving professors, but they knew their shit. We studied and practiced until there was nothing left to study. Then I found out about demonology and the power in it. I quit university, and I've been traveling ever since. Taking jobs as a mercenary here and there, but above all, improving my skills. My last stop was Bar Gregor to summon a devourer.
And what are you after, in the long run?
I don't know. I'll find out when I get there.
Interesting story. Thanks for your trust, Uran.
Sure. Hope you're happy. Huh?
Never mind. I'll be going. Interesting.
Oh, the Corporal. Quite a nice place you found yourself here, I have to say. Thanks again for helping us out in that bloody desert. So, if you don't mind, we'll unload our cart and smithy here. As promised, we can provide you with the best weapons and armor on Northander. The only thing we need to ask of you is a small donation every time we craft something for you. I know, you saved our lives, but we still need to cover for the material.
No problem. I'll make sure to drop by from time to time.
Splendid. Me have strength, Corporal.
The best wares from Kalea to Northander. Good choice.
Huh? Best you talk to my brother. He's good with words. I'm good with the anvil. Huh? Best you talk to my brother. He's good with words. I'm good with the anvil.
What do we need? Will do. Now would you look at that?
Tahar, what is it?
There's one thing I've been wondering about. After we parted at the hideout, what exactly happened? How did you and my father part ways?
Good question. I guess it all started with the relics, the tomes. You remember them, right?
Yes. He was hoping they'd help him to win the war.
Exactly. And there was this one moment when he found the 5th tome, when I came to a realization. You see, there were all those bodies, enemies, but also many of our people. We had shed so much blood, Tahar. But Asamo, he didn't care. If there was any grief in his eyes, I couldn't see it. And as dramatic as it may sound, that's when I finally understood that we had lost our cause. This wasn't about ideals, about us mages anymore. It was about him. Whatever his intentions had become.
And that's the reason Zane, Helena, and I betrayed him. Come on, do you really want to tell us you didn't see that before? The tomes were all about power.
I knew it was about power, but Asamo always told us that he would use that power for the greater good. And it's not that far off. I mean, can't you imagine? With the power of the tomes, we could have united the world. Even made it a better one. No more persecution of the deviant. No more wars. No more suffering.
You mean an aristocracy, with a couple of mages playing God?
There's always someone playing God. And honestly, don't you think the world would have been a better place if there were gods who actually cared? Who involved themselves in politics? I do.
I'll be off. Interesting.
Huh?
I want to buy some better equipment for the Wayfarers.
Music to my ears. What did you have in mind?
Yes? What is it?
Back when we met, you told me about an internal disagreement, which led to many of the guild's mages leaving. What exactly happened?
Why do you want to know?
No particular reason. I'm simply curious.
I see. Well, simply put, the guild had two leaders until half a year ago, me and Lena. Lena and a lot of the other mages felt that they could uphold their neutrality no longer without sacrificing their integrity.
You're talking about the persecution of mages?
Yes, I am. As Lena said, they are crucifying us, burning us alive, putting masks on our heads that destroy our minds. If there's something wrong with the world, it's people who keep their heads down because they are afraid to stand in for what's right.
Quite the speech.
She was very emotional when it came to the topic, yes. However, her stance conflicted with everything the Creators Guild stands for. We preserve knowledge, push forward the boundaries of magic. We do not involve ourselves in power games and politics. Figuratively speaking, a fisher will never be a good military commander, just like a mage will never be a good politician.
So where did Lena and the other mages go?
I do not know. They left to fight the purity and save mages, but I have not seen them ever since.
Could you tell me more about Lena? What was her position in the guild?
She was the guild's treasure master. Other than that, I do not know what to tell you. She was quite young when she joined the guild, not even 24 winters old, and immensely talented. When it came to mentalism, her skills were unmatched. She was different than the others. She was better than the others. And I always saw a spark of genius in her eyes. And yes, I do know that most people would call that attraction. But it was just a fraction of what made our bond unique.
Well, I understand the conflict.
Well, you are an empathetic man, so I would have been surprised if you did not. But these events lie in the past. There is no point in discussing them any further, though I had certainly hoped for a different outcome.
You seem bitter.
As I said, I had hoped for a different outcome.
Could you tell me more about the woman who initiated the split? Lena. What was your relationship?
I would rather not talk about it. Please understand.
Of course. But if you ever want to talk about it...
I will tell you.
Goodbye. Understood. What's next? Let's see. Now would you look at
How are you holding up?
Fine, I guess. Thanks for asking. You know, Corporal, I've been meaning to ask you something.
Yes?
Well, not knowing your mother and all that shit your father put you through. Do you ever feel lost?
Why do you want to know?
Oh, I'm just wondering, I guess. So, what's your answer?
I manage.
I see. You know, I haven't told you that yet, but actually our pasts aren't so different. Save for the fact that my father didn't try to conquer the world, at least not that I know.
How are our pasts alike then?
Simply put, I also didn't know my mother. And my father was a bastard if there ever was one.
What happened to your mother?
She died giving birth to me.
I'm sorry.
It's alright. As I said, I never knew her.
I take it you and your father aren't on good terms then?
You are of great wisdom, Tahar. No, we were not. I was and still am the only heir of the family, and if there's anything my father ever cared about, it was prestige. You see, it might not be obvious, but I'm actually of noble blood. Pure blood, as Finn and Mir elves call it. Nothing impressive, small nobility. You know, similar to the kind of Nortander nobility that's always around at royal festivities, licking everyone's boots so that they just don't forget about them.
There's nobility in Finn and Mir?
Oh, yes, there is. They don't call it that, but essentially Finn and Mir is an aristocracy.
How so?
Well, as you might know, elven culture heavily revolves around the White Tree, a gift from their goddess Ellen. Simply put, the tree is revered and guarded by a group of mages, of seers, called the Council. They're the rulers of our country, 6 women and 6 men. Now, according to the ancient lore, when a seer dies, his or her successor is chosen by the Council. However, it has become custom that a seer should be replaced by someone from his bloodline. Someone pure, as they call it.
Which means they make sure that the power stays within the right families.
Indeed. And even though elven families in themselves are small, if you count all the cousins, aunts, and uncles, the members of just one council family could populate a whole township. In other words, the closer your blood ties with the council, the closer you are to the White Tree. And thus, the higher your standing.
So I assume your father put you under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. I barely had a childhood. It was all stern-faced teachers instead, trying to feed me language, history, math, and magic from the day I could speak. And I can't even remember all those festivities and religious ceremonies I had to attend. It was as if I learned the meaning of the word small talk before I learned how to ask for my mother's teat. Not that she would have been around to listen.
How about friends?
Oh, that's another topic. I was allowed to go out and play as long as it was with the right people. Still, I didn't. Which was my choice, really. One of the few I made in those years. I preferred to stay on my own.
How come?
I don't know. See, I've always felt a bit ahead of others. As you know, we think in other dimensions than you do. Our lives are a lot longer. What that means is that an elf who has seen 20 winters is still considered and looks like a child, thus behaves as such. I just never felt at home with most people, especially around my age, and that feeling never changed.
What was your father hoping to gain from this?
Isn't it obvious? He wanted to marry me off, and thus expand our petty little family's prestige.
If he simply wanted to arrange a marriage for you, then why teach you magic, maths? When these things happen in Nortander, it's usually more about, how shall I put it?
The looks?
And the ancestry, yes.
Well, these things play a big role in Finn and Mir too, but to be considered a good match, education and magical talent are just as important. For a priest, let alone a pure blood, to be seen with an uneducated, non-gifted street elf is frowned upon, not to say forbidden. Also, from what I've learned, it's mostly young women and girls who get married off in Nortander, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, this isn't the case in Finn and Mir. If the head of a family decides to do so, a young boy or a young man may have the same fate as the one I just escaped by a hair's breadth. But this is a topic you could fill books with. Probably not for now.
But it never came to that?
Almost.
I see. Where is your father now?
Dead as a doornail. He got assassinated some years before I was allowed into the priesthood.
Assassinated? What happened?
He got mistaken for someone else. But it doesn't really matter. Let's not talk about it.
I'm sorry.
Oh, don't be. To be honest, I'm glad he's dead. Otherwise, I would be in bed next to some 200-year-old seer now. You see, Tahar, if there's one thing I took away from all that, it's that there's no greater power in life. Or, if there is, it doesn't care. Murderers live to be 100, children die in the birth beds. Ultimately, the biggest fallacy is that we like to believe that there's someone who gives a damn. We're on our own, and we have to make the best out of whatever life throws at us. I did. And even though not all worked out as I had planned, I'm here. And I'm free.
But you still feel lost sometimes, don't you?
Yeah, I do. But I'm working on it. Anyway, we digressed quite a bit, didn't we? Sorry, my fault. Sometimes I just talk too much. I'll see you around, Tahar. And thanks for listening.
Interesting.
Corporal? Need anything?
Goodbye. Mm-hmm.
Huh?
How did you become a shapeshifter?
I was chosen.
And how does that work?
Complicated. Are you sure you want to hear the whole story? Time isn't exactly on our side.
It isn't, but the more I know about your abilities, the better. You're fighting for me, after all.
We're not fighting for you, Tahar. We are fighting alongside each other. That's a big difference.
Alongside, then.
Good. Let's make it short, then. Shapeshifting is a gift of Zarek. One that only the best of his shamans are granted.
And how does one become a shaman?
He has to be chosen by a tribe's chieftain. You see, magical talent is a lot rarer among orcs than it is among humans or elves. In my tribe, there was only me and Rain. We both discovered our talent by chance. I, when I was 9, and put out a fire that had broken out in my family's hut. Everybody was asleep, even the damn fool that had been tasked to stand guard. When I woke up, the entire room was in flames.
So it was your magic that woke you?
No, I needed to take a piss.
Makes sense. What happened then?
I panicked and started screaming, as every child would have. However, the only thing that did was make me inhale the fumes even quicker. My vision blurred and I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was on a bed of hay in the village shaman's tent, and everybody was staring at me, as if I was Zarek incarnate. I asked what happened and they told me. Just when I had lost consciousness, it had started to rain. Not just a little. It was a full-fledged storm, a deluge from the skies. With not even a minute, all the tents in the village had been flooded. The fire wasn't extinguished right away, but was quickly put out by the other orcs that had been awoken by the storm.
How did they know it was you? It could have been a coincidence.
An unlikely one, yes. But you're right. According to my brothers, I had an orange shimmer in my eyes, and was muttering strange words when they took me to the shaman. She told me that was a clear sign that I was gifted, and that I had fire in my blood, as my tribe likes to say. Of course, it changed my life entirely. All of a sudden, I was my Cal's pride. It was strange, not just for me, but also for my kin.
How did your family take it?
Well, they were proud. But they also weren't sure how to treat me anymore. For example, my father stopped taking me out on the hunt because he was afraid that something might happen. Which is ridiculous. Shaman or not, an orc who can't wield a spear isn't an orc at all. Also, my siblings became withdrawn. Jealousy, of course, but also estrangement. All of a sudden, their baby brother had become this strange being, which had apparently been bitten by Zarek himself.
It's always like that. Being different isolates you.
I guess.
Who trained you? The healer?
Yes, but only about her craft. Primitive ghost callings, alchemy, medicine. I learned my magic from an elder who lived in a tiny shack a 15-mile march from our village. I woke up every day before dawn, walked for 2 hours, served him, and received my lessons, then returned to my cow shortly before midnight. It was hard, yes, but it was insightful. Those long walks in the darkness, the solitude at the foot of the mountain where his shack was, they shaped me.
Interesting. And who is this Rain you mentioned earlier?
Did I? Well, that's complicated. I don't want to talk about it.
All right. Regarding this Rain you told me about,
No, Tahar. Accept it.
To this day, the Shaper's magical and technological prowess remains unrivaled. One thing is clear, none of
Tahar, may I help you with something?
I'd still like to know more about how you ended up in Nortender.
Bugger and blast. And here I was hoping you'd forgotten. Alright, I'll tell you. But only under one condition.
Yes?
That I get to ask you a personal question too.
Then we have a deal. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Fair enough. I was born in the Windwall Mountains.
You don't say.
Sorry, still sorting out my thoughts. It's been a long time since I last told this story to anyone. Alright, one more time. As you can imagine, I was born in Windwall, a child of the rocks.
Come again?
A true dwarf, as some would say. Born in the buried city, not on the outside as the traders and farmers are. My family was quite privileged. Not nobility, but my mother and father led a big smeltery which supplied one of the finest smithies. Moon silver weaponry. Ever heard of it?
I think so. The commanders of the Royal Army used them.
Figures. Well, my childhood was a rather unremarkable one. I had 2 brothers and a sister, and even though I was the oldest child, I was always the most quiet one. I learned quickly how to wield an axe, and I still know how to do it, but I never took pleasure in it. The same goes for my parents' craft. For some reason, Nihalf had given me a talent for metallurgy, but not the desire to use it. Instead, my biggest love was always made with ink. Books.
But I assume your parents didn't approve of that.
Oh no, they didn't mind. I had 3 siblings who could do the job as well as I, so the future of our family was secured. On the contrary, they were quite accepting, which wasn't usual amongst dwarves, especially not those in Windwall.
Are the surface dwarfs different?
Depends. There are some who are very open-minded. For example, the traders who get around a lot. On the other hand, there are some who are as ignorant as the Windwallers.
Dwarves are traditionalists, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they are. They love their brawls, they love their ale, and they love their metal crafting. And they never miss a chance to tell the outside world just how much they do.
Well, to be honest, when I think of dwarven culture, that's exactly what comes to my mind.
See? And that's the problem. There's always diversity in every race. There are soft-hearted orcs, there are elves who don't give a damn about the white tree, and there are humans with... well, you get the point. What I'm trying to say is, many dwarves love living these traditions, but there are some, like me, who just don't fit in. This is one of the reasons why I appreciate you and this group so much, Tahar. Aenir's tools or not, we're all pariahs, in one way or another.
So, what happened? Why did you leave Windwall?
I'm getting there, Tahar. When I came of age, I found work in the Windwall Library. That time was also when I deepened my knowledge of the Shapers. I devoured all the books there were, and bought whatever writings the merchants brought in. They smiled at me, talked of me as the strange bird, but I didn't care. The more I read, the more spellbound I became. And the more I dreamed of journeying through Io to solve all those mysteries not yet uncovered.
Are there Shaper ruins in the Windwall Mountains?
Hardly. And those that are there are buried beneath miles and miles of rock. Impossible to access without a huge expedition.
Huh. And what kept you from doing just that?
Well, two things. First of all, my attachment to my family. Secondly, Gilak.
Gileak?
My, partner.
You had a partner?
Yeah. We met... I'd rather not go into detail too much. Fact is, we lived together for 6 years. He was very dear to me. Let's put it that way.
What are dwarven families like?
Similar to their human counterparts, I believe. Having family and offspring is considered to be very important, especially if you're of noble blood.
But living with someone of the same sex is acceptable?
Well, yes and no. If you do, you don't talk about it, and you should make sure to find yourself a wife or a husband to found a proper family, eventually, and bring new children of stone into the world, even if that family is just a charade. If you don't do that, you're frowned upon. There's even a word for a childless dwarf, man or woman. Galrag, which roughly translates as dusty boulder. Very amusing, I know.
They do have a point, though. For an empire to endure, there needs to be children.
I agree. But I doubt a few people with different desires living a different kind of life pose a threat. There'll always be men who like women and women who like men, and a couple of people whose tastes are different don't change the fact. And once again, the Shapers were different in that regard. As long as you stay within the boundaries of your caste, you could do as you pleased.
I understand. But something happened, didn't it?
Yeah. The Blackstone Rebellion. Ever heard of it?
No.
A coup. A small group of rebels tried to overthrow the royal house. It was bound to fail from the beginning. The rebels were anti-traditionalist and wanted to establish a new order, where it's the people who have the power, not the nobility. Gilak was one of these rebels.
Oh.
Yeah. At first, before the coup, they tried to raise awareness by giving underground speeches. A noble endeavor, but not at all thought through. Most dwarves just don't care about politics as long as they can have their mugs of ale. At first, he didn't ask me to participate, but the more sour things went, the more he started pushing me. At one point, we had a fight. When he asked me to steal money from my family to support the movement, it was terrible. Finally, push came to shove and he told me of the coup. He knew that despite my occupation, I was a remarkable fighter and Earthshaper, which is why he asked me to fight alongside him. You can make a difference, that's what he said. By Nihalf, he was just so naive. He really thought it would be like in the old legends. A group of courageous dwarfs fighting their way to Algrim Castle with me at his side. I just don't... Forgive me. It's strange to talk about it like this.
It's okay. Thank you for trusting me.
Yeah, sure. You can imagine how torn I was. I knew he'd die if the coup took place, but I also knew that I couldn't stop him. When I told him he was mad, he called me a coward, a delusional bookworm, who'd rather spend his whole life dreaming about the past than changing the present. And then he left. The next day, I found him beheaded by a royal guard. They didn't even make it to the castle stairs.
Why didn't you tell the guard about the movement's plans? They could have stopped him.
Yeah, they could have. Only to execute him and all his friends the next morrow. Tahar, believe me, I thought about this quite a lot. About what I could or should have done. And do you want to know the saddest part of it?
What?
I came to the conclusion that I did nothing wrong. He had his mind set, and nothing I could have said would have changed what had been about to happen. In the end, there's only so much you can do.
I'm sorry, Iskrim.
It's all right.
What happened then?
I ran. Not only because I'd rather have died than returned to that empty house of ours, but also because they would have arrested me too. Our relationship wasn't a secret, and in their eyes, I was as eccentric as Gilak and his friends. And we all know how dangerous eccentrics are, don't we? I left my family a letter, telling them not to come after me, bought a horse, and rode as far as it would take me before collapsing. That was 9 years ago. I haven't returned ever since.
What about your family? Did you ever hear from them again?
Not directly. Every now and then, I return to a big city to find a dwarf who can tell me about Windwall. But the thought of returning, I don't know. I know it's cruel toward them, but I just don't think I could ever bear setting foot in those cursed stone halls again.
I see. And since then, you've been studying the Shapers?
Yeah. If there really is, as people say, a silver lining to everything, then this would be it. I'm finally doing what I was too afraid to do back in Windwall. I'm living my dream. Though the price I paid for it was high. And you know what, Tahar?
What?
There's a third reason to my fascination with the Shapers I haven't told you about yet. It's Gilak. Stupid as it may sound, there's a part of me who wants to prove him wrong. To show him that the past has value. That it can guide us towards a better world.
I see. Well, thank you for sharing this, Iskrim. I appreciate it.
Yeah. It felt good to talk about it. I didn't expect that. But you're not off the hook yet. The question, remember?
Right. Shoot.
Your past is even more unusual than mine. Growing up with a man like Isamu Tahar as your father? Without a mother? And then the whole thing with the Mage Rebellion? I know you've been through a lot. Now, I was wondering, if you could trade that past you've had for a different one, would you do it?
What kind of a past could I choose? Anything?
Anything.
Honestly, I try not to think too much about the what-ifs. I can't change my past, so it's irrelevant.
Yeah, I guess it is. Either way, pleasure speaking with you. Hope this wasn't too grim for you, but then again, you asked for it. Give me some time now, will you?
Sure. Take care, Iskrim.
Yeah, do you need something? I'm a tad busy.
Goodbye.
Tahar, finally! Do you have the stone?
I do. What now? How do we connect it to the Nexus?
Well, I've done a little research on that. It should be pretty straightforward. Give me the stone for a second, please.
Sure.
Thanks. Now, let's see. Whoa!
This is amazing. What the heck just happened? Was that the stone?
Yeah. It seems like our plan worked. The stones are the power sources of the Nexus.
Not sources, Tahar. They're simply the catalysts. As I said, the energy, all this magic, it comes from someplace else.
Well, I definitely know why the Shapers were so powerful now. If they were able to harness that, I wouldn't want to be their enemy.
Pain.
Pardon?
Rekindling this place. I can feel their thoughts now. At least, some of them.
You mean, the Shapers' thoughts?
Those who connected themselves to this place. The ones who had the power of telepathy. They left an echo. And whatever wiped out the Shapers, it caused pain. Horrible pain.
I see.
Well, fascinating or not, we need to connect our minds to the Nexus to find the source of the blood burn, right? Can we do that now?
No. It's not strong enough yet.
Well, we have the second stone already. Let's insert it. Okay, I'm ready. Sure this place isn't gonna blow up once we insert the second stone, Iskrim?
What? No, I don't think that's likely.
All right, here we go.
Blasted, blistering blazes! I don't know what to say. This is amazing!
But it seems like it worked. We've restored the Nexus to full power. How are you feeling, Iana?
Overwhelmed. But it's bearable.
What now, though? Is it strong enough to perform this joining ritual?
It should be. And you, Tahar, should be the one to do it. You need to connect your mind to the Nexus. That way, you might be able to sense who or whatever is sending out the song. What do you say? Are you ready?
I think so.
Good. Then step into the forge.
And what now?
Tahar!
I weep.
Is it over?
Yes, I think so. By the Guardians, that was... I don't know what just happened.
Describe.
There were... voices, screams, thoughts, images.
How do you feel now? I mean, has anything changed?
I think so. Yes. I feel... I don't know. Clearer. As if something in my mind opened up.
Then it worked! Niehauf's hammer, we did it! You joined yourself with the Nexus!
So... I am telepathic now?
You're not a dreamweaver. I'd feel it if that were the case.
I don't think you are, but you're connected to this place now. And therefore to the Shaper memories.
Does that mean we can finally locate the cause of the song?
You tell me. Think of the song, Tahar. Close your eyes. What do you feel? What do you hear? What do you see?
I'll try.
Save me. A failure. That's what you are.
No. That's impossible.
What is it?
My father. I heard his voice.
Your father? So you think he's behind this?
I also heard the voice of a woman. She whispered something.
A woman? Now this is, interesting. But I still don't understand. Do you really think your father is involved in the blood burn?
I don't think so. There's more to it. But yes, my father is involved in this somehow.
This is helpful, but it still does not tell us where to start searching. Think hard, Tahar. Is there anything else?
Yes, there were sounds. Drips, crickets, flies, but...
The eye. Your father's laboratory.
Tiara's breath, of course.
The eye? You mean the marshlands?
Yes. My father had a laboratory there, in the old abandoned manor of House Waite. Nobody was allowed to follow him there, not even Rohan or I.
Well, sounds like we have a lead. The Bloodborne and the Song of the White are somehow connected to your father in his laboratory.
So it seems. Yes.
Tahar, maybe...
What?
Never mind. It doesn't matter.
Rohan, tell me.
There's nothing to tell.
Well, if you say so. I'll send a messenger to inform Lacane as soon as possible. He'll want to be there. Let's get prepared.
Tahar, how do you feel? You sounded a bit lost before.
I guess I was. This joining, it still feels strange. As if this place all of a sudden came alive.
That sounds both eerie and fascinating, to be honest. Oh my, I'm using this word too often, am I not? Is there anything else you wish to talk about? If not, I best get prepared.
Let's see.
Tahar, may I help you with something?
Goodbye. Got it. Understood. Now would you look at that?
Huh?
I'll be off. Will do.
Oh, hey. How are you holding up? Telepathy, visions, now your father. Must have been quite a whirlwind.
I'm fine. It was just a lot to take in at once.
Figures. Now let's go find some answers, shall we? A deadly swamp, an old ruined castle, insects everywhere. If that doesn't sound like fun, I don't know what does.
Interesting.
Corporal? Need anything?
Goodbye. Let's see.
There you are. I was hoping you'd come by. The Eye. And here I'd hoped I'd never see those bloody castle walls again.
I know that feeling. Tell me, Rowan, did my father never tell you anything about those experiments he did there? At all?
No. He didn't.
I see. Well, then I guess we'll find out.
Oh, hello. How are you feeling? Considering your new gift, I mean, joining your mind with the memories of a civilization, that's a thought as fascinating as it is peculiar.
Honestly, I don't feel that different.
Yes, I imagine. You know, Tahar, I have been thinking maybe I could join myself with the Nexus as well. I'm wondering if it could help me understand better the human mind.
I don't see why not.
I see. Well, then I shall think about this. Let us continue this discussion another time, Tahar. We should ready ourselves for what is to come. Yes, what is it?
Goodbye. Yes? Interesting. Now would you look at that? Iana?
Oh. Yes. Forgive me, I was lost.
How so?
Well, this place. Since you've rekindled the Nexus, it is an ocean of thoughts, feelings, and memories. You felt it yourself as you joined your mind with the Nexus.
So you can hear the Shaper's thoughts now?
Fragments, yes. Just like when you had your vision.
How come the joining didn't make me more like you? I thought the Shapers who connected themselves with the Nexus were able to feel each other's feelings and hear each other's thoughts. Isn't that exactly what Dreamweavers do?
No. This telepathy the Nexus granted its users, it's different from my abilities. You can only hear the thoughts of the other ones who once joined themselves to the Nexus. And they are all long dead. In other words, you're listening to the whispers of 1,000 corpses. My mind, on the other hand, is like an open window. And people's thoughts and emotions are like leaves the wind has blown inside. It doesn't limit itself to a certain group of people, as Shaper telepathy did.
Well, what do you hear then? Do you know why the Shapers died?
I'm afraid I don't. Just imagine standing inside at Everlight's market at high noon. It's impossible to make out anything. Which is why I try to keep my mind closed for most of the time.
What do you make of this vision I had?
What should I make of it? I don't know, Tahar. Only you can answer that question. But I think your father's laboratory holds the answers you're looking for. And maybe an end to the blood burn.
Huh?
Never mind. I'll be going. What's next? Got it. Understood. Will do. Yes?
Savage wildlife, steep hills, stormy shores. The Utran coast, also known as the Green Coast, is not known for its hospitality. Many ships have run aground in the northern storms, a phenomenon which regularly attracts wanderers who scavenge the coastline for loot.
Do you feel the wind? We're getting close to the coast. If Sergeant Copper is right, and the ship really did sink, some of the cargo might have washed up on the shore. What do we need?
Uh-huh. So, what's the plan?
These were sailors, and they were slaughtered.
Not by humans, though. Look at these wounds. Claws did this. Or teeth.
Strange.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Get ready. Looters, as expected.
Well, then we should be even more careful now. Their kind rarely comes alone, and they don't seem to be the talkative type.
Let's see.
More lost souls. What a pleasant surprise.
You read my mind.
Give the word.
Yes? Interesting. Now would you look at that?
That way. All right.
Look at that, boys. They will fall.
Let's see. Now would you look at that?
Well, damn it. Seems that the warden ran out of oil.
What about that camp to the south? It looks like an outpost. They might have some.
Understood.
That way?
Interesting. Got it.
Fine.
Will do.
Barricade. Someone or something tore it down. Maybe the looters.
Possible. Now would you look at that?
You got it.
I understand.
Crazy! Put that damn torch out. Why? Why? You know what the note said.
Come on! Don't be such a sis!
Shut your mouths already, will you? Let's search this place and get out of here. Sorry, friends, but this spot is taken.
Huh?
I said find your own spoils. We were here before you.
We're not looters.
Oh, you aren't? Then what do you want?
The other looters attacked on sight. You seem a bit more reasonable. Are they your men?
Who do you think we are, Plunderers United? No, we're all here on our own.
So, you fight each other?
Not as long as we respect each other's territory. First come, first serve.
Don't you feel bad about this? Stealing from the dead?
Why? It's not as if these pals still need it, do they?
Well, you have a point.
Of course I do.
Did you kill these soldiers?
You think we could do that? I'm flattered. No, we didn't. These sods were dead when we came here.
Huh. Then what happened?
Well, depends on who you ask. My pal Reinhardt thinks it was them more-here bastards from the jungle, whereas Henry thinks it's some strange, unspeakable evil that haunts these lands.
You make it sound like I'm an idiot. The warden's note was very clear.
Aye, because sitting in a bloody lighthouse all day and night with booze as company likely turns you into a person of reason.
Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Dead is dead.
Strange, unspeakable evil?
Yeah. The lighthouse warden left a note before he killed himself. Apparently there's some horrible ghost haunting these lands, and it searches for the light.
Why would the Moorhere attack a Nortander camp? That doesn't make sense.
Then they take on the Nortander army in that village, too? What was his name, Leonon? It's obvious they didn't give a fuck about the White Mist Treaty anymore.
Huh, I see. Am I right to assume that the wreckage on the coast belongs to a trade ship?
Well, judging by what little is left of the cargo, yeah. Guess they ran into that storm last week, poor sods. Even the weather's gone mad.
Don't mind us. We'll be on our way.
All right, then. Boys, get back to work.
Corporal? Yes, of course.
Let's see. Got it.
A fine plan.
Interesting.
Sure.
Debris. Damn it.
And a lot of it. So the sergeant's theory was right.
Yeah. But let's look around. As I said, if we're lucky, some of the cargo might have washed up too. Now would you look at that? Let's see. Interesting.
Sounds like a plan. That way?
Now would you look at that?
More lost souls. What a...
Oi! Soldiers!
Wait, we...
Get them! Sure.
Let's see. Seems that some of the sailors managed to save themselves. And they took some of the cargo with them.
But no sign of the medicine.
As you want. A fine plan.
You again. What do you want?
We need to search the camp.
You deaf? I said this is our spot.
Look, we just need some oil for the lighthouse beacon. We'll leave the rest to you.
Oil? But aren't you going to...
All right. But if I see you take anything else, you get the idea.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
You again. What do you want?
Don't mind us. We'll be on our way.
All right, then. Boys, get back to work.
Now would you look at that? Whatever killed them, it didn't show any mercy.
Close the door. Don't say we didn't warn you. Kill 'em, boys!
Interesting. Yes, that should do the job. Now back to the lighthouse. Let's see. Understood. Now would you look at that? Interesting. Let's see.
Tiara's breath. What? What are those things?
Are monsters, I guess. Ugh.
Well, let's hope they aren't as strong as they are ugly.
As you require.
What's next? Yes. Got it.
We'll make short work of them.
Oh, what's the plan?
Yes. Yes. Now would you look at that?
You got it. All right, here goes nothing.
I'm only getting started.
Kiara's breath. What were those things?
Snake women. Medusae. They shouldn't be in these parts of Io, though. Still, no sign of the cargo.
Blasted. I knew it. This looks like the medicine, doesn't it?
Yeah, looks bloody disgusting. But yeah, I guess that's it.
Well then, seems we got lucky. Then let's head back to Leafshade.
That way?